Welcome into the November 9th episode of the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. Leafs win streak snapped in overtime last night against the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll break down the game and get some practice updates also from today's skate at Leafs camp. All that more coming up on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also now catch us up on video format up on YouTube. Just search up Locked On Leafs, hit subscribe, and get daily Leafs coverage directly to you. Leafs losing 4-3 in overtime to the red-hot Vegas Golden Knights last night, who extend their winning streak to 8 straight games. Dude, that team is unbelievable. They're a buzzsaw right now. But Toronto picking up the pity points, so points in 4 straight for them. They pick up 5, a possible 6 in that gauntlet that they had to go through against Boston, Carolina, and then Vegas. Now tied for second in the Atlantic. What did you make of the performance last night of the Maple Leafs, Dave?
It's disappointing because they controlled that game, not start to finish, but for most of that game, it was their game to win. When you have a lead like that, and considering how they lost, it's a disappointing result. You know, some will say they got the point out of it, but no, they should have gotten 2 points out of that game. That was 2 points. Well, that extra point that they gave up, they coughed it up.
See, I feel opposite. I actually do feel opposite. I don't think they earned a full 2 points in that game. I think the way that they defended and the amount of odd man rushes and breakaways that they gave up in that game, they're lucky that they were allowed to get that point, right? Like that game was 2-1 early in the second period. And how many breakaway saves did Kallgren have to make? Like 3, 4, maybe 5 breakaway stops throughout the game, but like 3 in particular early in the second period. The one was on the same shift, like back to back, made some big time stops to keep it a 2-1 deficit and allowed Toronto to get their legs, claw back in, and then completely dominate the rest of the second period. Like the latter half of that second period was all Toronto. And, you know, Marner scores, Lilljegren scores, and they end up kind of taking the lead 3-2 after 2. And yeah, you can be disappointed that they, I suppose, weren't able to hunker down and lock down the lead, and then they gave up the tying goal on the power play is a little upsetting. But ultimately, I don't think they necessarily earned the full 2 points. So I think only getting 1 out of it is probably pretty accurate representation of their play. If, you know, the hockey gods are handing out points based off of performance, I mean, they probably got it right.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? The reason why I was disappointed is like, for as bad as they play in like those cases where they were turning the puck over, allowing all those odd man rushes, they still had the lead. And sometimes in games like that, you just got to finish it. You just have to find a way to finish it, get the 2 points, especially against a really good Vegas team that winning has not been like they're now at an 8-game winning streak. So, you know, they don't give up opportunities like this very often. And that was the disappointing part for me, is that the 2 points were there for Toronto and they let it slip away because they couldn't find their focus, especially, I said, going into this game, turnovers.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, no, we're just going to turn over the puck a bunch of times and, you know, do our best to not win this game, apparently.
Yeah, there's no better team, I think, in the NHL that makes you pay when you turn the puck over. 17 giveaways in total out of the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. That's not a winning formula against the Golden Knights. But ultimately, I think there was some good stuff that we could pull out of it. So, I mean, when we talk about Timothy Liljegren getting a couple of goals last night, I've never looked at Lilljegren and said, hey, he's a sniper. That guy can really shoot the puck. But That guy could really shoot the puck, can he, Dave? Like, I didn't really actually. I mean, he shot it's here and there a little bit, but like last night seemed like a couple of like defensive goal scorers goals where they can just shoot, take some rips, and they hit the back of the net. And that's kind of what Liljegren was showing us last night.
It's so surprising because the Leafs don't have it, right? They just haven't had it this season. And, someone's got to do it, right? We thought Rasmus Sandin was really going to be that guy to drive more of the offense from the point. But, Timothy Liljegren, when they drafted him, he was known as an offensive defenseman. If you watched him with the Marlies, you saw a little bit of this, but to do it at the NHL level is also another thing, right? And to see him do that should make the Leafs realize that maybe there's a little more here to what Timothy Liljegren can do offensively, because these weren't fluke goals. Like, it wasn't like he had wide open nets to score from. No, these were like pinpoint shots that he had to find the hole to beat Logan Thompson. Like, these were great goals that he scored. And how about that pass from David Camp on that first goal that he
I
scored?
mean, you want to talk about the pass from David Camp, or want to talk about the pass from Mitch Marner? Like both of them. I mean,
Yeah, they did one up each other a little bit. They're
like both feeds on those goals were outstanding, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know they were both outstanding. Marner, obviously, his was, the deception play to do the turnaround and find. It was almost like the typical Mitch Marner play where he decides to pass it off after he. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just like just off of that. I felt like last night from the second period onward, we did see more of the old Mitch Marner, or the Mitch Marner from the second half of last year when he was one of the most dominant, prolific players in the entire NHL. I felt like he kind of gave us some of those vibes again last night. Like the goal he scored was outstanding. Made a couple of real solid plays. Like that was a prop. I definitively, I think I could say, Mitch Marner's best game of the season.
The best part about that too was how much the Leafs, that top line, was able to keep the puck in the offensive zone, cycle it. That was all the creativity of that line. This is what we expected from Mitch Marner from the start of the year. I don't know what was taking him so long to get to this point, but like this is what we were expecting from Mitch Marner. It was nice to see, like, that play he made on his goal was like, those are things only really Mitch Marner can do on this team, and like the Leafs need more of that. That's what's been missing from the start of the season. So it was nice to see him do it against a good Vegas team, right? You're not seeing him taking advantage of a team that you expect them to do that against. Like, to do it against Vegas, I think has a little more cachet to it too.
I wouldn't mind him doing it against those teams you'd expect him to also, because it doesn't seem like anybody wants to go out there and dominate the Arizonas and the Montreals and the Buffaloes of the world. But here we are. They instead want to go out there and play this way against Carolina, against Vegas, and that's great too. But sometimes against those lesser opponents, which like this weekend, the Penguins have been in a massive slide. They got 2 games against the Penguins coming up. They got a game against Vancouver coming up. Like the next 3 games are against non-playoff teams. Can they go out there and perform? Bring the same performance that you had this weekend and continue it forward. So they play the way they did last night in Vegas. It's not that Toronto played poorly, really. Like Vegas is a really good team. You got to give credit to that squad, and they do make you pay the minute you turn the puck over with their speed and their counterattack. But if they can play similarly to the way they did, clean it up a little bit with the turnovers, and keep in mind, I wonder how much of that too was like, third game in 4 nights. There's a lot of travel back and forth over the border. How much that factored into the level of maybe sloppiness that we saw at some points. Like that first goal was just pure sloppiness. Even Liljegren's goal, or the goal that he allowed at the end of the period there. Third game in 4 nights can allow that with cross-border travel back and forth. So I think overall, though, the Leafs played all right. And why don't we take a quick break and we can get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, I suppose, as we continue to break this game down. And then we also have some updates from practice, little practice reports that we can give also here on the show. But before we get any further, let me tell you guys about Athletic greens. What is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of these things. They are fantastic. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, gluten free, whatever, it's good for you. They contain less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting quite good. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit, anyways. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements all by yourself, and you're investing in an all in one nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews recommended by professional athletes, trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in water each and every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills, no supplements. It's just the one scoop of the AG1, and a look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do, visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We're reacting to the Maple Leafs 4-3 overtime loss last night to the surging Vegas Golden Knights, who now won 8 in a row. But the Maple Leafs, they didn't play poorly. They didn't go out there and completely whoop them, obviously. But it was it was a decent performance. I think a good performance, all things considered. Third game, 4 nights, backup goaltender, cross-border travel, and playing, the hottest and best team in the National Hockey League, who are on 2 days rest. So all things considered, I think the Leafs could be happy with their performance. They probably wish they would have won and hung on the third, but ultimately taking a point and getting 5 out of 6 in this gauntlet, I think they would have been happy with that if we would have had this conversation a week ago. But as we do with every single game, if it's a win, it's the 3 stars. But in a loss, a losing effort, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's get to it, Dave. Let's start with the goods. What was good about last night's game?
I thought Mitch Marner, simply put, he was a catalyst for the offense that they really needed. We brought the setup to Timothy Liljegren and his goal. Like, if this is what, we were wondering if they should have kept the top line together going into this game after they were split up against Carolina. Mitch Marner's, well, it doesn't matter who he's playing with right now. He's feeling it, right? That setup for Tavares, that goal against Carolina. Now he had those 2 great plays against Vegas. We're starting to see the Marner train rolling. The Mountain Dew is looking good for him right now.
The Mountain Dew is looking good. Marner was great, obviously. Same with Timothy Liljegren, but we got to give some love to Erik Kallgren, the guy in net. I mean, that guy was phenomenal at times in that game. 10 out of the 14 shots he faced at 5-on-5 were of the high danger variety. So he didn't face a lot of shots. So when you look at the save percentage at the end of the night, it doesn't look great, allowing 4 goals on like 18 or 19 shots. But more than 50% of the shots he faced were of the high danger grade A variety. And he only allowed a couple of goals off of those. He was outstanding to keep this team in it in that second period when they were coughing up the puck left, right, and center, and allowing those odd man rushes and allowing those breakaways. He was there. He was up to task. I thought Kallgren, again, despite allowing 4 goals last night, was great and made some big time saves to allow that team to even get that point. So I do want to give some love to Erik Kallgren. The bad, David.
The bad was let's go with the overtime goal. I don't know what was going on there. It was like Moses parting the Red Sea, and Riley Smith was just like, "Thank you very much." Like, I understand 3-on-3 overtime, it's tough to defend, but to what led to that breakaway chance, how he was able to get free and open like that, I mean, it was a beautiful goal by Riley Smith. When you have so much time in the world, you're more than likely going to pull off a great move to score. But I just that they were just way too nonchalant with the puck in overtime there, and it burned them. Like it's another case where you got to be a lot more aware of what's going on in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was also the start, right? Allowing a goal 45 seconds into the game. It's a tough play for Sandin. Puck kind of rolls off his stick, and he's not able to track down the player. And 45 seconds into the game, we got a goal scored. Nicola Waugh kind of follows up on a rebound sitting in the crease. And the Leafs are chasing from there on out, right? Down 1-0, and then they were down 2-1, and ultimately got a lead, but weren't able to hang on to it, as we noted. But that's not a good start. It's not what you want. Which leads me to the ugly, which again is all of the turnovers, like just turnovers. 17 giveaways in this game last night by the Toronto Maple Leafs. When you're giving the puck away to a team like Vegas, they make you pay. And they did. Go look at every single one of the goals that Vegas scored last night. They all came off turnovers of some kind, whether they were, passes that weren't cleared, picked off, or they were passes that just for whatever reason bounced off the stick, and like Sandin's and Liljegren's. Like, it just was not a clean night for the Maple Leafs, and they Vegas made them pay. So the turnovers, it's ugly. They got to get cleaned up. That's really the Leafs. Whenever they lose, they typically are like shooting themselves in the foot by, stuff like this happening to them.
Yeah, no, that was just that was my ugly too, because I knew that this was something that they need to be more aware about, and they weren't aware about it. And it was just how the turnovers led to those goals, because it wasn't even just that they turned the puck over. It's that turnover, here's a breakaway. Turnover, here's a 2-on-1. Turnover, here's a 3-on-2. Like that's what's really frustrating, is that the turnovers are putting them in such bad spots, and they got to learn from it. And it's the same guys as well. Lilljegren, he has been playing as much, so he's still, I think, trying to get his, trying to get back into the swing of things. But Sandin has to have a little more awareness.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it's a bit of a bouncing puck. It wasn't like it wasn't like a total boneheaded play, but you got to have a little more awareness of the guy rushing you in that situation. You got to take, you just have to be a lot more aware about it when that's happening.
Yeah, and situational hockey was something that got brought up a lot in the post-game press conference. It was more so in reference to the game-tying goal on the power play, just saying that they probably should have got off the ice. They had fresh legs to chase down a team like that. But anyways, that's besides the point. But yeah, it definitely – Sandy does have to play better, just in general. I felt like his play has kind of not been stellar of late. And it's funny because – the last 2-3 years, I feel like we've always talked about Rasmus Sandin having this higher ceiling than Timothy Liljegren. But right now, Lilljegren might be showing us that he has more so what it takes to be like a top 4 NHLer than Rasmus Sandin. Would you agree with that?
Right now, he's showing to be more of the complete defenseman, especially. I was concerned when I first saw him in the NHL, like bigger bodies were pushing him off the puck, pushing him, and getting to those dirty areas.
Sandin.
I'm talking about both of them. Like when Lilljegren first came, that was sort of an issue for him, but then he went back to the Marlies. He worked on it. He got better, and now Sandin's going through that same thing. So right now, yeah, Liljegren's definitely ahead of him as a top 4 defenseman in this league. Sandin's got to watch what Liljegren has done and kind of copy that path a little bit. Yes, the Leafs need puck moving defense, and they need to have offensive capable defensemen, but they also need responsible defensemen as well, right? And Sandin's got to be a little bit better at that. I think Liljegren with Riley, I was a little concerned about that pairing. They haven't been too bad. I have seen worse pairings.
Well, and go look at the competition that they've had to play, right? Boston, Carolina, Vegas. The 3 at the time, most difficult teams in the NHL, the three best teams in the NHL. And that was your, hey, welcome to the season moment. There's no easing in. He had to go and play against some of the top teams who are deep as hell. And he was up to the task.
Yeah, no, that's not easy, right? He wasn't exactly playing a lot of top 4 minutes last year either. He was kind of thrusted into that role a little bit. We saw him get there in the playoffs, and then he got usurped by Justin Hall. Going into the season, the Leafs were going to need one of Sandin or Liljegren to step into a top 4 role. And I figured that Liljegren was going to be that guy because he just needs to understand more the role he needs to play to be in that top 4. And I felt like he was making strides. And I'm glad that the injury didn't totally, put him too much behind the 8 ball going into this season.
Let's take one more quick break. When we get back, I have pulled up just like the analytics on Natural Stat Trick of the deep pairings so far this year. Let's look at Morgan Rielly and Timothy Liljegren and see through the first couple of games kind of how well they've done, and we can maybe read through the analytics and the stats and see exactly how we feel about them. If it's matched the eye test, because so far I would say it has matched the eye test. I think that they had been a formidable pairing. Also, you look at the lineup of Justin Hall and TJ Brody, they have also really improved their play. So we'll take a look at those when we return. A couple updates from practice as well, including one on Matt Murray. Will he be ready to go this weekend? Maybe. I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we return. I'm Mike DiStefano with David Morassutti. You're listening to Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We are a daily Maple Leafs Center podcast. If it's your first time joining us and you've made it this far into the podcast, really appreciate you tagging along and appreciate you listening. And if you are a daily loyal listener, like we know we have out there, thank you so much, obviously, for coming and hanging with us each and every day to get your Leaf fix. Hopefully we do a pretty good job providing that with you. But always subscribe, because our subscriber numbers for recurring people don't make sense. There's a lot of y'all out there who aren't subscribed but come back and watch the videos each and every day. We gotta bump those numbers up. Our numbers are looking like
people. Make it easier on yourselves.
Yes, just subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then each and every day, boom, you'll be told exactly when you get that new Leafs content. But to take a quote from Matthew McConaughey, we got to bump those numbers up, the rookie numbers. We got to chase down the Locked On Sens guys. Locked On Sens have like nearly 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. We got to get there. We got to get there, Leaf Station. We cannot be beat by the Ottawa Senators. No. The Locked On Sens pod. Help us out. Let's take a look at the defensive pairings, though. Like we were just talking about a moment ago before taking that quick break. Just how has Timothy Liljegren and Morgan Rielly fared so far this season in comparison to, I guess, the rest of the blue liners. So I'm going to just pull up a tab or pull up a website that I like to use a lot. If you're new to analytics, Natural Stat Trick is a website that a lot of people use. And that's kind of how we find a lot of our analytics and our stats. So we're looking at Morgan Rielly and Liljegren. So these are the numbers. So they've played 3 games together. Obviously, Liljegren just coming back. 42 minutes and 25 seconds of time together at 5-on-5. So this is at 5-on-5, even strength. They're leading in the shot share department when they're out there. So that's a positive sign to look at. They've been on the ice for more goals than against. That's a positive thing to look at. Expected goals. This is something that I always like to look at. And what it means essentially is, how much quality of chances are you not allowing? And then when you're on the ice, how many quality chances are happening offensively? So you want to be in the positive here. You want to be over 50%. And Morgan Rielly and Timothy Liljegren out there, 56.46%, which is actually the second best on the team. If you look at here, you've got Rasmus Sandin and Gio at 59% when they're out there on the ice. So this is a really good number that they've got here for Rielly and Liljegren. They're not allowing a whole lot, and they're actually producing some offense. You saw, Liljegren scored twice last night, right? So that was good to see. They're not allowing a whole lot of high danger chances, I suppose. 6 in 3 games means that they're allowing 2 per game. A lot worse, trust me, could be closer to what Brody and Riley were allowing. You can see up here 24, which is not great. But a big thing you got to look at too, though, when you're looking into these numbers is, the offensive, like their zone time. How many times are they in defensive zones and how many times are they in the offensive end? And so far, it's been roughly 50-50, I guess. 15 O-zone faceoffs, 11 D-zone faceoffs, a majority being in the neutral zone. So, being sheltered a little bit, which is what you would expect since Hall and Brody are pretty much the defensive duo out there. So what do I think we can say that so far, so good with that pairing. And what I actually like about it is it allows Hall to have the safety blanket and TJ Brody next to him. And that's really seemed to have settled his game. Like, we haven't talked about Justin Hall making blunders all week, Dave.
Yeah. Well, we haven't. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice little change of pace. I'm not gonna lie. I do think that having TJ Brody also not having to take the burden of always being on the top pairing too, like it bump him down a little bit. He can focus on being Justin Hall's. I mean, I wouldn't even call him a babysitter because Justin Hall has been playing it better. I think having TJ Brody gives him a little more confidence. I don't know why.
It's a babysitter. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like we saw it work when Jake Muzzin and TJ Brody were paired together last year. That there is success to come when you have them together, or when you have TJ Brody kind of as the de facto. We're just going to nickname him the babysitter now. That's now his thing.
That's what we call him on Leafs Lunch. We call him the babysitter.
Yeah, so I think it's nice that they can do that. And look, Giordano, I guess in the same way, is babysitting Sandin a little bit. So yeah, the Leafs have a bunch of babysitters in this line. But I do think that Timothy Liljegren, they needed one of these defensemen that they drafted to step up in a big way and contribute higher in the lineup. That's why I was always in favor. Let's get this guy into these roles. He needs the opportunity to prove that he can do it, because that's how you find defensemen like this now in the NHL. Teams are drafting and developing these guys constantly, where it's which defenseman can they trade for, which defenseman can they sign. Well, how about you try to find some internal solutions too, because that's cheaper, right? And and they're younger. They're Timothy Liljegren's just starting to, hasn't even reached his prime as a player yet. And I'm liking that he's getting this opportunity and making the most of it.
And I just think that it's really stable. Like him coming in, getting healthy, coming in, giving Keefe a different option to do something else. Like, there really wasn't much that he could do back when, Victor Mete and Philip Kral, like, you're not going to put those guys in your top four. So there wasn't a whole lot he could do before he got back this weekend. But since coming back, Brody and Hall, they've been together now. Actually, what's crazy about that, I got one more stat that I want to show you. This is on from moneypuck.com. Of defensemen who have played at least 85 minutes together in a game, right? And that's, it's a decent amount of defensemen, I guess, that are on this list. Their expected goals per 60 against Brody and Hall have been the second best pair. The second best pair in the National Hockey League, next to Taze and Makar, over these past few games together. When they're out there on the ice, their expected goals against per 60, second best duo in the National Hockey League.
It's pretty good.
Not bad. It's not bad at all. Couple of updates from practice.
Yeah.
Practice. By the way, I just came back to the thing. Well, did that not show up?
It did not. I just realized it did not show up.
Did the other one show up?
Yes, the other one did show up.
Okay, as long as the other one showed up. I could quickly hold on. Let me show this one more time. One more time I can show the graphic. Just so y'all know I'm not pulling any legs. There it is. Right there. Boom. Number 1, Taze Makar. Number 2, Brody Hall. Look at that. Brody and Hall. Expected goals against per 60. Number 2 in the NHL. And that's like when you do it per 60 minutes basis, that's, I think, the fairest way to figure out that number. Boom. Second best. Pesce and Shea, third. Rasmus Dahlin is in that mix here. So, I think that's a lot of credit goes to the babysitter, TJ Brody, for kind of settling down Hall. And they've been a pretty good duo. So Hall gets a lot of poop gets slung at Justin Hall. He has played a lot better as of late. The numbers indicate it. And the fact that we're not sitting here complaining about his turnovers and giveaways and dumb plays, the eye test also would suggest that. Really quickly, potential for Matt Murray to play this weekend. He's practicing with the club, had his first full practice today with the team, and Sheldon Keefe said that if he is good to go, if he gives the sign off, and if the doctors give the sign off, and he feels he's ready to play, they're targeting for Saturday against the Canucks, which means we might have to start Keith Petruzzelli after all. Maybe it might be the game that Matt Murray returns instead, which for all the jokes about Matt Murray, you probably still feel more confident with him than Keith Petruzzelli.
Yeah, right. You don't want to throw him into, the fire, quicker than you would like. Matt Murray didn't exactly seem too committal on when he would be able to play. So, yeah, I don't like the last thing you want to do is put him in a situation where he feels like he has to be rushed and he's, potentially re-injures himself. He knows his body better than we do. So I do like that he's not, pushing too hard to come back, because the last thing you want is another goalie to go down. But yeah, I do. It would be better if we had Matt Murray available, just because you don't want Keith Petruzzelli to have his confidence totally shot after one start. Although Erik Kallgren, he kind of bounced back from that Penguins loss not too long ago. So I think it would be, these guys are professionals. They know the situations that they're in, but if you have options, explore all of them before you do the one you don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Petruzzelli, his career, I don't know if that's what they're thinking about, but I personally, gut feeling, Matt Murray will be starting Saturday night against the Canucks. That's my gut feeling, but we'll see what happens. Something to track throughout the rest of the week for sure. All right, Dave, I think we'll close on that. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening and supporting the show as per usual. But that's going to do it for us here today. Subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms. I receive daily Leafs content. Follow us on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck is mine. At D_Morassutti is Dave's. Go ahead, smash that like button. Leave a comment down below. Your thoughts on anything we had to say today. If you got any questions for us too that we can answer, we'll probably do an AMA, a little bit of a mailbag at some point in the next in the next week or so. So you could toss some of those questions down below as well if you would like to. But we'll be back with another episode tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. But until then, keep locked right here on Locked On Leafs.